Hey, gang, it's Lou. And as promised, I have the brilliant and wonderful Heather Campbell here, who is an actual attorney, doesn't just play one on
Yeah.
TV. You probably could play one on TV,
Oh my gosh, you're too nice.
but thanks for being here. I appreciate it. A lot of the folks that I've been working with, the more and more I do AI stuff, they've just been like hammering me with questions. And I'm just like, look, I can tell you what apps to use. I can talk about the tech, but I cannot tell you anything about the legal aspects of AI.
Yeah, it's been a hot topic. It remains a hot topic. I think that the benefit of where we are now is everybody understands to some extent what
Yeah.
AI is. They've
Mhm.
interacted with it. They've probably attempted to use multiple tools in their business and their
Mhm.
life.
Yeah.
Just 5 minutes ago, my sister and I are launching a new podcast, and I'm on Chat GPT,
Oh, cool.
poking some
Yeah.
questions into an AI tool to help brainstorm. The good news is the conversation has changed. People are
Yeah.
more educated in general around
Mhm.
AI, but a lot of the legal questions remain because unless
Mhm.
somebody has direct contact to somebody in the legal field that knows a
Right.
thing or two about AI, it can be a challenge to get real clear direction or
Mhm.
guidance around it.
Yeah. So I have some questions. Before I get into those, I'm wondering what are the most common concerns or questions that you get about AI?
The most common ones I would say are generally around, is it okay for me to insert some type of information into this AI tool, right?
Yep.
So it's generally around a specific information set. Like I will get authors reach out and say, is it one of my clients who happens to be an author? Is it okay for me to enter my book information, a transcript of my book into AI to help develop some social media posts or whatever? And I'm like, slow down. We got to
Right.
talk about populating just any AI tool
Mhm.
with your book.
Right.
And similarly, because nearly all of my clients are expert-based businesses in some
Right.
way. They've got a body of work and it doesn't have to be in a book, but maybe it's a training series or it's a transcript from something that they've created. And generally, I just tell people slow down just for a minute. And these are really important questions to ask because if it's your core assets, if it's your true intellectual property, and
Mhm.
let's pause for a second to talk about what intellectual property
Yeah.
means. Intellectual property, your IP is anything that you create that
Right.
is protectable, right? That's intellectual in nature and protectable through registrations, whether it be like a trademark registration, a copyright registration, and copyright registrations in the context of the kinds of things that get entered into AI tools are super relevant because one of the risks with using AI actually is violating other people's registered
Right.
copyrights. So there's this double-edged sword of, can I enter my own information in and what does that look like, or what are the limits that I should understand about that? And also, what can I do with the outputs? Like going back to the author world, the number of posts I've seen where people are advertising, learn how to write your book with AI.
Mhm. I know. I'm working on some stuff like that myself, and I'm like, okay. I say the same thing. I'm like, hold your horses.
Yes, I'm like, "No." There is so much wrong messaging still happening in the marketplace from people
Right.
who are uneducated around the risks of AI, or at least
Mhm.
the risks of using AI in specific ways.
Yeah.
As somebody who is an owner of a business, and you have an obligation to care for not only your information, but other
Mhm.
people's information in very specific ways.
So let me ask you this because you mentioned the book. That's really
Mhm.
relevant because a lot of folks come to me about that kind of stuff. And I used to be like in a prior life, I was a ghostwriter and it was very manual, right? So in this scenario, okay, I have a rough draft. I have a whole bunch of notes. I have all this information on this book that I want to write, and I created it and I wrote it from my own brain. If I put that into ChatGPT and say, rewrite this or use some custom GPT to create a book, is that still yours? Is that still okay? This is mine. The core ideas are mine, but ChatGPT embellished it.
Mm. That's a great question. And let me talk briefly for a moment about how copyright registrations work.
Right.
So if you were to go try to register, and let's be clear that if you're an author of a book, you should absolutely be doing that with the aim of obtaining a U.S. federal copyright registration and applying for that registration within 90 days of completing your book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Hmm.
there's a timeline, right? There's a timeline if you want full protection under the law. You can
Right.
still register it later. I've helped clients obtain registrations that are well after the fact.
Mhm.
However, if you want protection from violations of your work, including really timely violations, because that can happen right away with books.
Yeah.
People start pulling sections out or quoting them inappropriately and sharing full chapters or feeding. How many authors have been in lawsuits with various AI tools or platforms because they've allowed people to feed third parties books content into that AI tool and
Wow.
then generate outputs, right?
Yep.
It's problematic. It's super
Mm.
problematic. So when you go to obtain a registered copyright over anything that you create, and let's be clear that what is currently protectable under US law are creations by humans. And this is because in
Mhm.
order for it to be considered creative,
Yeah.
has to be created by a
Mhm.
machine component, a machine generated thing is
Yeah.
not considered creative. Even though people are going to claim it was based on my unique inputs, it was
Yeah.
based on, no, ultimately the machine created the output. When you go to obtain a registration, one of the questions that you now have to answer is what portion of this work was created by AI? And
Wow.
you have to be specific.
Yeah. Mm.
That's going to be a challenge for you
Yeah.
if you're having to change every few words and be like, AI wrote this part, AI.
Yeah. And how do you can tell? Oh, I don't know, 17%.
Yeah,
And then what if it
it's
is only like 10%? Then they're not going to give you a copyright on that.
no,
90%.
that's right. That's right. And so there are some really practical good uses for AI, but
Mhm.
there are some really bad uses for AI. And I just
Mhm.
want people to understand the difference so they can make an informed decision.
Right.
But my first question is if you're an expert in whatever field you are in, right? I work
Mhm.
with experts across a massive number of industries,
Yeah.
medical, psychological, health, business consulting and coaching, all the many industries that you see growing in unique ways right now. And if you're truly an expert in one of those fields, why would you outsource your thought leadership to a tool?
Mm.
And is it really thought leadership if it comes from an AI? It's not your
Right.
thought leadership,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, this is the part I was reading an article actually in Wired. And it's
Mm.
interesting because it, excuse me for bringing up this topic on your podcast, but it has to do with the evolution. The reason it's relevant is because it is the same topic, different field, this
Right.
revolution of what's happening in the like online sex industry with people running chats for, I think it had to do with that site OnlyFans, which I know minimally about, but I also
Mm.
know there's some legal issues evolving because these people who are on, and we'll just call them influencers, right? They could be in any field, but
Yeah.
hiring essentially other humans around the world to run chats with thousands and thousands of followers,
Wow.
pretending to be them.
Mm.
And now the question,
Mm.
because there's some legal liability related to what's going on, and you could take it in that field, you could translate it into any other field, the
Right.
same issue,
Mm.
is that what people really want is that human connection. They want that one-on-one access. And that it's
Mhm.
the same concept if you are a thought leader in your space.
Mhm.
Why would you outsource your authentic thought leadership to AI, especially for some of the core assets that you are going to be building
Mm.
in your world, in your business, including a book, maybe it's a
Yeah.
course, whatever it is. Hold on to those. Be
Yeah.
the one who bucks the trend and says, no, I
Yeah.
don't need to outsource my thought leadership to a
Mm.
tool.
Right.
You can use it in other interesting ways, don't use it for your core creation, and don't use it
Mm.
for even modifying your core creation if you can help it.
Wow. That's because I just think I'm going to put my thing in Grammarly. Like, at what point do you say,
Yeah.
isn't my, I'm not very good at English. I'm going to put my book in Grammarly and let that correct my grammar. But that
Slightly
line's
different
improving, right?
grammar. Yeah, but it is the same question around where is the limit. So, what are the
Hmm.
ways that I might use an AI tool for something in the book? Is like maybe brainstorming, but I'm doing limited inputs. Understand, you still have to control your input so that you're not
Yeah.
just giving away the farm. Is like maybe creating unique chapter titles or something.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Where you're going through and using it for short excerpts where you've put the concept in and it's just helping you refine down to a few words, or maybe it's the flow of the book where you can get like some almost like coaching or guidance from an AI tool around how to structure something, but you still go do the hard work of writing that book. There are some ways that you can use it for honing your ideas, but again, you have to walk that fine line of, am I inputting material that could be somebody else's output and
Hmm.
put my IP or my thought leadership at risk?
Yep.
And
Because
so
the
the
minute
work.
I publish that book,
Mhm.
it's just going to copy paste and sell it for $2 less.
That's right. And here's the other thing is that you really cannot rely on the outputs. So
Hmm.
and here's the other thing that I would say around using ChatGPT is that if you don't know the answer to the question that you are asking the tool, do not in any way rely on the output,
Yeah.
which is ironic because
Hmm.
people want to use AI like Google.
Yeah.
AI is not Google. It might behave in similar ways at certain times, but it is not Google. And if you are truly an expert, right, then you're going to ask focused questions where you pretty much know the world of responses that live in that field.
Yeah.
And you're just honing or deciding a certain way you're going to do something or say something. But if you're somebody who's going to an AI and
Mhm.
asking a question that you have no idea what the answer is, like, absolutely do not use the output. You have no way to vet it. You have no
Yep.
way to understand, is this within the world of what's reasonable? Is
Right.
this accurate?
Yeah.
And most
I know.
people are not going to do the work of actually exploring, is this an accurate
Yeah.
output?
I've had like even something as simple as, oh, hey, write a bio for me. And then I've
Mhm.
had it come back and say, I was the vice president of distribution at Warner Brothers Pictures. I'm like, okay, where did that come from? I would love
Well,
that job, but
that's amazing. I love that about myself. I know.
yeah,
What you're talking about is actually, there's a technical term for it called a hallucination.
yeah.
AIs constantly hallucinate. It's a known thing. And it's also
Mhm.
legal reason why you cannot rely on these tools.
Yeah.
Because let's pretend you used an AI tool like a research tool and you got some hallucination in an output related to another party, related
Mhm.
to a company, related to a known figure in the world, and you go publish that information somewhere else. Suddenly you could be on the hook for
Ooh.
defamation,
Yeah.
for any number of things that are related to that output. And if so, there's just so many reasons why people really need to understand what are the limits of what they can rely on, what are the reasonable uses of an AI, and then proceed accordingly. Because ultimately, my goal is that we all use AI in ways that make our lives easier, make the experience or the lives of our clients better to the extent that we can do that, right? But it needs to be a win-win. And we need to not in the process be violating third-party rights of other people.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then. I love Notebook LM, right?
Okay, yes.
So now supposedly the stuff you put in Notebook LM is only going to give you replies on your inputs. So assuming you're inputting, this is my website, this is my video on YouTube, and then I put that into Notebook LM and they use that as a source. Is
Ooh.
that safer than the typical chat GPT kind of thing?
So, are you asking about whether Notebook LM is using your inputs as somebody else's outputs, or just that you're defining the source that they can pull from?
Yeah. Notebook LM can only take from, it
What
doesn't do,
you
right.
input.
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm saying, all right, I'm still not happy with the draft of my book. I'm going to bring it all into Notebook LM and try to ask it some questions. So I'm basically researching myself. I'm asking them
Yes.
back
Yes,
to
yes,
chapter
yes.
3. And
Yeah.
is
No,
that a
and
little bit less of a slippery slope than
yes,
ChatGPT?
yes, it is. Yes, it
Mm.
is. And again, you have to understand how you utilize that information the right ways, et cetera, and making sure that you have the proper inputs. Obviously,
Mhm.
if it's about yourself, you're going to know the inputs. I think it's the same. And I was just going to look really quick on Otter AI.
Yep.
I think Otter AI, which for people who are not familiar, it's a transcription
Transcription. Mhm.
service. It says it's not open source. I don't think it takes your information and because
Mhm.
I think it's also like a closed service where it's going to transcribe your conversation or your podcast or whatever. And then you can ask very specific questions related to your
Mhm.
own stuff. Right. And
Right.
so it's going to pull from what it just transcribed for you, for example, to populate proposed podcast titles or a summary of some of the most important key points or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So those are both good examples of AI tools that are safer because
Mm.
especially if you're inputting information about others, other third parties, you do not want that to be an open source or open loop system where that information feeds
Yeah.
the machine,
Mm.
feeds the outputs that other people may get. And let's also, in this moment, talk about one of the other really important risks to be aware of, which is the overlap of privacy regulations and
Mhm.
AI.
Ooh, yeah.
Because from a couple standpoints, people often get this wrong. One, they don't disclose if they're using any AI tools in their business. You have the duty to disclose this. And let me just make a little side caveat that there's a whole bunch of stuff that you're required to disclose as part of abiding by privacy regulations in your business,
Mm.
whether local or abroad. A lot of
Yep.
people heard about the GDPR at the time it was coming down the pike. That's evolved over time. There are very specific things you're supposed to be doing within the context of your, not only your privacy policy, but the
Mhm.
way that that impacts what you do in your business. There's
Right.
the say what you do and do
Yeah.
what you say in the privacy
Mhm.
world. And a lot of people post a privacy policy, but they have no idea how it impacts their business. They have no idea what they're supposed to be doing to do
Yeah.
it. And so unless you're working with somebody who understands this and can help you put a privacy policy in place that is specific to your business, you may be getting a lot wrong in the world of privacy. But AI is another one of those tools you need
Yeah.
to disclose if you're using, because if you're taking any customer data and feeding it into an AI, or take this example. Oh my
Mm.
gosh, this is a current news example.
Yeah.
If you're an employer and you're taking candidate information
Yeah.
and feeding it into an AI, you are violating all kinds of
Wow.
employment rules. Yes, because our AI tools reflect what about people? Because it's an AI tool for the most part is a large language model tool.
Right. With its own
It's going
biases.
to reflect every bias that the human population holds that are
Mhm.
generally known biases. It's going to be
Wow.
reflected in the tool.
Yeah.
So you take what Elon Musk just proposed, he sent out that communication
Right.
demanding that all
Justifying your
federal
job.
employees justify your job, send me 5 things that you did last week, and CC your supervisor. And first of all, this went to security teams and CIA.
Right.
It went to everybody. There's so many reasons
Yeah.
why there are massive problems with that. But
Mhm.
then we learned that what he intended to do was take all of that information, filter it into an AI tool, and
Some algorithm.
fire people based on it.
It's crazy. Yep.
You're violating so many laws if you do that, right? Let's just
Mhm.
start there. Like, absolutely do not do that in the context of employment or in the context of your client data,
Mhm.
unless you have pre-approved consent to
Wow.
do that. And in no circumstance should you be putting their private information in there, personal information in there. So
Yeah.
there are reasons why so many of the large companies, as soon as these AI tools came out and started really making waves in the news, everybody's awareness increasing, immediately made AI tools inaccessible to their employees.
Wow.
Immediately said, there is no circumstance where you can use AI as part of your employment here.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That-
because there's a lot of risk. There's a risk
Yeah.
of exposing your own trade secrets, violating privacy rules with your client
Mhm.
data, doing all
Yeah.
number of things.
Yeah. I need a lawyer. No. In the context of what we do or what I do with video,
Mhm.
that's another thing where I just tell people it's the Wild West because now you can input a prompt and create a video from that prompt. So I did something on one of the tools the other day. I think it was Hedra. This is so immature because I have the mind of a 14-year-old. The prompt was show a cartoon of a black pug pooping on the president's desk. Because like I said, I'm so immature. So it was really cute and funny, but it's like, all right, this just came out of nowhere, really. So like
Yeah.
in that case, all right, who does that belong to? Can I use it? Can I not?
Oh, and we're going to see all sorts of evolving litigation. Or think of the video that just came out that was, I think, all over. Was it BLM or Department of
Yeah.
Labor? The video that was up on everybody's screens when
There
they
was
came into
one,
work.
yeah, where a whole bunch of people were speaking out for defending Jewish rights and stuff like that. And I think it was Scarlett Johansson. She said, that's not me. I didn't give you permission to put me in this video. How
Oh,
did you use my
right.
likeness?
Yes, yeah, but the one I'm talking about was in relation to Trump and Musk. I think Trump
Oh,
is
yeah.
kissing Musk's feet, like licking his toes. Hilarious, and lots of legal issues involved in using
Mhm.
somebody's likeness, even through an AI tool, generating an output, right? Yes, the answer to your question is yes, there are risks, and it will be an evolving landscape, right? Because there are comparisons. Like obviously, public figures have signed up for some amount of publicity, and cartoons are created about them, right?
Mhm.
Presumably, they under the law have actually fewer rights than a private person.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
now we're going to have probably some amount of case law around at what level are you still a private person versus public. Lots of people in business and in the online space are inadvertently having their IDs, their image taken and used in ways that they don't even know about.
Yeah.
It's very problematic. And so there will also be an increase in companies that are able to spot and take down deep fakes and all kinds of things. But yes, these are tools that can be used in really funny ways, and
Mhm.
understand that if you're not squeaky clean, there are some risks that go along with that.
Yeah. YouTube now has a check mark that you want to know if AI was used in the making of the video.
Oh, just
Yes.
this morning. That's right. Just this morning, I sent a link to my sisters of a Brené Brown video. A few minutes into it, I was like, this is AI. This is
Mhm.
not Brené Brown. The way that it was
Yeah.
edited, the way that her voice cadence was
Wow.
going throughout the video. And
Mhm.
sure enough, I went and researched the channel. They had basically duplicated tons of Brené Brown content, but had clearly created whole things out of scratch, like just
Wow.
using an AI voice generator and inputting their own text. I'm sure that they inputted a ton of their own text and just used Brené Brown's voice.
Yeah.
This is going to become significantly problematic.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. The other thing with what I do with video is now there's all these digital avatars and you can clone yourself and this and that. And I think it's okay if it's a customer service thing and I go in and I say, this is the Lou bot, this is not me. So at what point does, even that starts to feel a little funky, right?
Yeah. It's when you're using your own image, there's far less risk than generating a third party
Yeah.
image or an image involving somebody else. So, just like with testimonials or using an image of somebody else on your website, you want to have written consent. Same
Yeah.
thing if you're populating their content, their information, their image into any kind of an AI tool.
Mhm. And I think like most of the work that we do online is based on trust. So I always tell folks, yeah, you can create an avatar or clone yourself, but why would you? Like people want
Yeah.
was that your background? I'm like, yeah, this is like in the old days,
Right.
when we used to touch up the Photoshop
I
images.
know. Oh, totally. I call them like the glamour shots, right? Like you just automatically glammed everybody.
Yeah.
No, it's so important. And then you also need to think about this one step removed. So an important point that people often miss is not only understanding how you're going to create your own we'll just call them rules of the road for using AI in your business. Here are the
Yeah.
ways that I feel comfortable using AI. Here are the ways that I know I won't compromise my IP or my client data in the process. Like literally writing those down becomes increasingly important if you work with team. If you have any number of assistants, independent contractors that support you in your business, they
Yeah.
need to know your rules, but also you need to know before you hire them what amount of AI are they using in the delivery of their services. Let's pretend you hire a ghostwriter
Yeah.
or an illustrator or a whatever, and you don't know that they're actually using AI for a significant portion of their output. You've now inherited a whole set of problems and
Wow.
liability in your business that you didn't know about. And
Yeah.
you potentially didn't consent to because you didn't know about them. So this is where people need to now, at the point of bringing any third party into their business, understand to what extent are you using AI, and specifically put it in your independent contractor agreements,
Yeah.
whether it's acceptable, under what circumstances it's acceptable, what amount of disclosure you need when they are using it so that you have advance approval. You have to think through this in every person that you bring into your business to support it, because so often in copyright infringement cases, what you end up hearing, even from a small business owner, is, I hired a web designer and they did that part, or my assistant wrote that page, or whatever. Doesn't matter. It's your business. You're on the hook for it.
Like, I didn't know they used Dolly to create this logo or what.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to get real clear in a hurry about what other people are doing with AI tools in support of your business.
Wow. It's the Wild West all over again. It's so crazy. So sometimes what I'll do is, especially with affiliate promotions, people send you swipe copy, right? So they sent you this is what you're supposed to mail out. I'll
Yep.
put that into ChatGPT and say, put it in my voice and tone and style, and it adds a couple of F-bombs, whatever it does. But I wonder, even with that, if they gave me the swipe copy and I embellished it with AI, but I used my GPT, the Lou GPT.
Yeah.
So I'm a little leery of even that stuff because I don't know, does the
Well,
Lou
it's
GPT just go based on what it's seen from me? Or,
yeah, this is a great example. So a couple things. One, you're still responsible for vetting whatever the Lou GPT puts out, right?
yep.
Ideally, here's the ideal, is that you subscribe to a service or a platform that is closed loop,
Right.
where for the most part, you are not feeding the big monster of a system with other people's data unless you have permission.
Yeah.
Presumably, if it's marketing language that they already have put out into the world, there's less risk with that than something that is like a trade secret that needs to be
Right.
held real close to the vest, because trade secrets depend on remaining secret, right? So with your but with your scenario, here's the thing. Let's pretend you're somebody who, in your own natural voice, if left to your own devices, you're really boisterous, or you make statements that are absolute, or you like really hype things up. Could be problematic if you take somebody else's marketing material and your Lou Chat GPT changes it slightly so that you're making absolute claims about what their service can do that
Yeah.
end up being not true, or that violate FTC regulations, right? Because this is where, again, you're responsible for the output. And this includes not being defamatory, not disclosing personal data, not violating FTC or any other marketing regulations. Like, the rules still apply to
Wow.
that output. Yeah.
It's crazy. So what can we do?
Yeah. Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing, because people are going to be like, oh my gosh, this is so scary. It's no different than the rules that applied before. The rules are the rules.
Yeah.
But you're now applying the rules as well to this new tool. So it's really not that big of a shift. If people back up, and you might be like thinking to yourself, like, maybe I just don't know all the legal rules that are the ground rules for business. Like, maybe I start there before it's like the sky is falling, you just can't use.
Yeah.
No, it's just really important as a business owner to understand the basic rules that apply to your business, because then AI just becomes one more piece of it. You're looking through the same lens. You're just
Yeah.
applying those rules to this new tool. And if you have
Right.
some amount of that understanding, you're just going to save yourself a lot of headaches. And
Yeah.
whether it's by using an AI tool or hiring an independent contractor to write your marketing language, you still ultimately are responsible for the use of that language,
Right. So
right?
even pre-AI, I know folks were new to business, and I'm like, where did you find it? Oh, I just got it off Google. Pull something. It's I can use this on the internet, right? If you don't
Mhm.
know those basic, between right and wrong, you're gonna screw up either way.
This is it. This is it. And this is why you also have to really understand, as is true in any area related to your business, who are you taking advice from? Who are
Yep.
you taking advice from? Are they
Yeah.
qualified to be giving you that advice on that topic?
Yep.
So often people are stepping outside their zones of expertise because they just have enough experience with something to be able to cause some trouble.
Yeah.
So you just have to be really clear. Who are the advisors that I choose to bring into my life on this topic or on this
Mhm.
topic? Or you don't want to take financial advice from somebody who's not good at finances.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. So that's the other thing is just
Wow.
it's up leveling your own skills as far as leading your business, bringing the
Mm.
right people in that you listen to and take advice from, and then just becoming educated about what are the rules of the road. And AI,
Right.
like you said, is just a new iteration, but plenty of people got it wrong with Google or they get it wrong hiring other people to do the wrong thing in business. There are lots of other pitfalls that we can step into that are
Mhm.
really on us to avoid.
Yeah. And I usually like to push the edges, and especially on the video stuff. I'm going to experiment with Sora because now I can create a video from a prompt. Not like necessarily throwing it out as something I'm selling. It's just I'm showing folks, here are some crazy things you can do. And oftentimes it's more like a parlor trick than I showed somebody last week. Oh, look, I can create a song about Trump in suno.com. And now I put in the lyrics, but somewhere in that software, a guy is singing a big band version of the song. And I'm like, okay.
Ah, totally. Humans are endlessly creative, right? They're going to use tools in very creative ways. The interesting thing is that just if you're in business, if you're an entrepreneur, you have an added level of responsibility to do things
Mhm.
the right way. You're presumed to know the law. You're
Mm.
presumed to know the law. So that's the other tricky part.
Yeah.
I was going to share with you, Lou, and you're
Yeah.
welcome to take, I just put it in chat.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, I have a blog post that we can share with people because I go over
Oh,
the
great.
7 biggest risks. If somebody's, that was a lot, I'm gonna need some time to digest it or whatever. We can also refer them back to this if they wanna come feel more
Excellent.
comfortable, like, I want a list to read through. There's
Hmm.
not only the kind of the 7 biggest legal risks of using AI, but also 10 things to do if you are using AI in your
Uh-huh.
business, right? At the very
Cool.
end. So, like some
Yep.
proactive steps you can take to make
Mhm.
sure that you're doing some things the right way.
Awesome. Yep.
Yep.
Cool. So
Um,
tell folks, because I know I found you through JVMM, so that traveling in the same circles, which is great, because oftentimes I'll go to something and they say, no, I'm a patent attorney or whatever. But you tell folks what you do and what your sort of niche is and what audience you serve.
yeah, absolutely. So I do small business law exclusively, right?
Yep.
That's a bucket that contains many things. So what it involves is typically everything from IP protection, like registrations, trademark, copyright registrations, IP assessments, helping people understand. Let's do a review of the IP that you have, the ways that you can protect it. I have an IP tracking tool that I've built that I share with all my clients so that they can track their IP and
Oh,
actually
cool.
begin to understand what bucket it fits into, how they can be very proactive in keeping that IP safe. So, everything from IP to business contracts, there's a ton that lives in the business contracts world.
Yep.
Everything from online terms, online privacy policies, terms of purchase related to offerings or services online, to real traditional business contracts, non disclosure agreements, independent contractor agreements, consulting agreements, all the ways that we use agreements to run our businesses. And then I often will help with business setup, depending on where people are based. I
Mhm.
do a fair amount of dispute resolution support. It's something's in the water right now, as so many
Yep.
clients are actually dealing with some significant problems in their business. There's a wide range of what I'll call like very standard business legal needs, but my clients are exclusively small businesses, which means they're not the big dogs. They're not making
Mhm.
$100 million a year.
Right.
Some of them are making millions. Many of them are not. They're still growing and scaling, but
Mm.
they are entrepreneurs who want to build a thriving small business to do really meaningful work in the world. So they're often, probably like yours, expert-based businesses, a lot of really brilliant humans, a lot of consultants and agencies, people that support businesses of all kinds, and then a ton of people that are coming from licensed and regulated fields, therapists, doctors, all kinds of people that support humans in really interesting ways, growing more into that online space, growing their brand, growing their visibility.
Cool. Yep. And the website is
That's
legalwebsitewarrior.com.
right. Just
So I
what's
can
that?
include this cool 7 legal risks in the notes for this.
Totally. Yep.
Awesome.
So if you just need a refresher, pop over to that, the 7 biggest legal risks related to using AI, and then 10 things to do proactively if you are using AI. Also, if you want a reminder of the kind of the overall framework that pertains to your business, I have something that is called the Legal Basics Boot Camp. And I'm
Cool.
happy to share that link as well. It's free. It's a little mini course that walks people through a framework that I've developed to help people understand their legal needs in their business. So I'll
Oh,
share
that's
that
awesome.
link as well.
Yeah, thank you, which I should have done 15 years ago probably.
Meet people where they are, right?
Yeah,
We're all doing our best.
it's funny because oftentimes I'll go and I'll say, if GoDaddy has the domain available, I'm in business. I have whatchamacallit.com. I don't need to do anything else. So
This is why it's the wild west of business, right?
yeah,
This is you've just stated the exact of why a 14-year-old could throw up a website and suddenly be in business overnight and have no idea what they're doing legally.
wow.
Yeah.
I'll be calling you when I get in trouble for my dog poops on president's desk video.
Oh, that's hilarious. Send it to me first so I can at least have a good laugh. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And I know my community's going to love it as well. And they'll probably have a whole nother host of questions. Thank you
That's
so much.
okay. Yep, we do our best. Lou, so great to see you. Thank you for letting
Thank
me
you.
join you today.
Thanks.